Captain Lee Jun floated in the harness before the main viewport, his breath a soft cloud in the recycled air. Below him, the Earth was a brilliant blue and white marble, and the moon was a stark, gray expanse pockmarked and ancient. His ship, the Odyssey, hung in the silent space between them, a delicate collection of modules and silver wings built around the heart of the vessel, the Fujikawa Translite engine. The bridge was quiet, save for the low hum of life support and the occasional beep from a console. His crew, 5 of the best minds on Earth, were at their stations, their faces lit by the soft glow of screens. "Final system check," June said, his voice calm. It was a voice that commanded trust, not through volume, but through its steady certainty. "Report." To his right, Kim Min, his pilot, didn't look up from his navigation panel. His fingers danced across the holographic interface. "Trajectory is locked. We are a green light for Proxima Centauri. The jump clock is synced and running. T-4 minutes. Power systems are optimal," came the voice of Park Chai-won from the engineering station behind him. She was studying a complex schematic of the FTL drive, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The reactor is at 112%. Magnetic containment fields are holding. No fluctuations." She finally looked up, her eyes meeting June's for a brief second. They shared a look that held years of work, of failures and triumphs. This was the biggest of them all. "Communications are strong," said Lee Ji-hoo, the comms and data specialist. "We have a solid laser link with mission control in Seoul. The entire planet is watching." He smiled, a quick, nervous flash of teeth. "No pressure." Dr. Kong Suk, the mission scientist, chuckled softly from his science station. "The pressure is a privilege, Ji-hoo. We are the first. There is no precedent for this moment." He was monitoring deep space sensors, though they showed nothing but the empty void ahead. The 6th member, Kim Soo-min, the medical officer, was quietly monitoring everyone's biometrics on her own screen. All heart rates were elevated but steady. Healthy nerves, not panic. June nodded, taking it all in. This was it. A decade of his life, 2 decades of global scientific effort, trillions of dollars and resources, all distilled into this single 5-minute jump. They would engage the drive, slip into a theoretical subspace, and reappear just outside the Proxima Centauri system. They would take scans, confirm their arrival, and jump right back. Quick there and back. A proof of concept. But everyone on the bridge, everyone on Earth, knew it was more than that. It was humanity's first step out of its cradle. It was the moment they stopped being a single-world species. T-2 minutes. Min announced, his voice tighter now. June unclipped his harness and pushed off gently, floating to the center of the bridge. He placed a hand on Min's shoulder. "Steady, Min. You've flown this simulation 1,000 times. In a simulator, the worst thing that happens is you get a bad score," Min replied, a slight tremor in his hands. "Here, the worst thing is we become a permanent stain on the fabric of reality. That's the spirit?" Chai-won said drily from her station. Not looking up, June squeezed Min's shoulder. "The math is sound. The physics is sound. You are sound. Just fly the ship, pilot." He moved to Chai-won's station. "How is our heart, Chai-won?" She finally turned to look at him. Her face, usually a mask of professional composure, was pale. "It's beating, Captain. Stronger than anything we've ever built. The power readings are terrifyingly beautiful." She gestured to a graph on her screen showing energy levels that dwarfed anything ever produced by humankind. "It's waiting. Good." June pushed off again, drifting past Ji-hoo, who gave him a thumbs up, and past Dr. Suk, who was watching him with an academic's curiosity, as if observing how a human leader behaves moments before making history. T-60 seconds. Min's voice echoed through the bridge. A soft alarm began to pulse, a gentle reminder of the inevitable. June returned to his harness and secured himself. On the main viewport, a digital countdown superimposed itself over the star-dusted blackness. 0:59, 0:58. Mission Control confirms go for FTL engagement, Ji-hoo said. They're signing off. The next voice we hear from them will be after we jump back. Silence descended upon the bridge, thick and heavy. The only sounds were the hum of the ship and the soft, rhythmic breathing of its crew. June looked at each of them. Kim Min, his jaw clenched, hands poised over the manual override. Park Chae-won, her eyes fixed on her console, a sentinel for the machine that would tear a hole in the universe. Lee Ji-hoo watching the data stream from Earth, the last link to home. Dr. Kang Suk, a look of profound wonder on his face, ready to see the unseeable. Kim Soo-min, her calm presence a balm for their human fears. He was responsible for all of them. For the ship. For the dream. T-30 seconds. June keyed the ship-wide intercom. His voice was calm, clear, and filled the entire vessel. Crew of the Odyssey. In a few moments we will attempt what was, for all of human history, considered impossible. We are not just testing a new engine. We are opening a door. What lies on the other side we do not know. That is the point of going. For everyone who ever looked up at the stars and wondered, this is for you. It has been the highest honor of my life to fly with you. He released the button. T-10, 9, 8. June took a deep breath. 7, 6, 5. He looked at the starfield ahead. At a tiny, faint red that he knew was Proxima Centauri. 4, 3. Engaging the drive, Chae-won said, her voice barely a whisper, yet it carried across the silent bridge. Her hand moved, pressing a physical button on her console. A final, deliberate act. 2, 1. A deep, resonant tone filled the Odyssey, a sound that was not so much heard as felt in the bones. The ship began to vibrate, a gentle tremor at first, then growing in intensity. The lights on the bridge flickered, and the main viewport shimmered. The starfield outside did not whoosh past. It did not become streaks of light. Instead, it began to unfold. The blackness of space twisted, the pinpricks of stars stretching into brilliant, impossible lines of blue and white. The moon and Earth vanished, not left behind, but erased from view as if they had never been there. The universe outside the viewport was no longer a window, but a tunnel, a kaleidoscope of fractured light and non-Euclidean geometry that hurt the mind to look at. The vibration settled into a steady, powerful thrum. The ship was no longer moving through space. It was being carried, cradled in a bubble of distorted physics. Kim Min let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Jump successful. We are in the stream. Lee Ji-hoo was staring at his blank comms panel. No signal. Nothing from Earth. We are completely alone. Dr. Suk was grinning, his eyes wide with exhilaration. Fascinating. The sensor data it's nonsense. The laws of physics as we know them do not apply here. Park Chae-won watched her power readouts. The engine is holding. Stability at 98%. We are on course. Captain Lee Jun unclipped his harness again and floated to the viewport. He placed a hand against the cool, transparent aluminum, staring into the chaos of light. There was no sense of speed, no sense of direction. Just the overwhelming, silent, violent beauty of the passage. For the first time, a human was looking upon the hidden machinery of the cosmos. And for the next 5 minutes, the galaxy, unaware of the tiny speck of life hurtling through its secret pathways, simply held its breath. The deep, resonant tone of the FTL drive shifted, fading from a bone-shaking hum to a higher, almost musical whine. The kaleidoscope of light outside the viewport, which had been a constant, dizzying river for the last 5 minutes, began to slow. The brilliant lines of blue and white started to condense, to pull back into themselves. Captain Lee Jun tightened his grip on the handrail near his chair. Stand by for reversion to normal space. Kim Min's hands were already flying over his console. Disengaging the drive on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. Park Chae-won pressed a sequence of buttons. The musical whine of the engine cut off abruptly. The vibration that had been a part of the ship for the entire journey ceased, leaving a sudden, profound silence that felt heavier than any sound. The universe outside snapped back into focus, But it was not the universe they had left. The viewport no longer showed the familiar arrangement of Earth, Moon, and Sunday. Instead, they were hanging in the blackness near a massive, swirling gas giant. It was a planet of deep maroons and bands of creamy white, its surface a churning storm of alien weather. A faint, thin ring of dust and ice circled its equator, catching the light of a distant, small sun that burned with a pale, white intensity. For a moment, the bridge was utterly silent. Then, a cheer erupted from Li Jihu. "We did it! Proxima Centauri! We're here!" He was laughing, a sound of pure relief and joy. Dr. Kong Suk was already bent over his science station, his fingers tapping rapidly. "Confirming our position. This is remarkable." The jump was precise. "We are within the calculated gravitational influence of Proxima Centauri b. We have actually done it." Kim Min let out a low whistle, slumping back in his pilot's chair. "I can't believe it. We're light years from home." June allowed himself a small, tight smile. The tension in his shoulders eased just a fraction. They had done it. Humanity had taken its first leap. "Excellent work, everyone." "Chai-Won, how is the engine?" Park Chai-Won did not answer. She was staring, frozen, at her engineering readouts. Her face, which had been pale before the jump, was now ashen. "Chai-Won," June prompted, his smile fading. She looked up, her eyes wide. "The engine is fine, Captain. It's everything else." She gestured weakly at her screen. "The passive sensors, the LiDAR and mass detectors, they're going crazy." Dr. Suk looked over from his station, his triumphant expression shifting to curiosity. "What is it? Asteroids? A dense debris field?" "It's not natural," Chai-Won said, her voice hollow. "The mass readings, they're structured, geometric." The celebration on the bridge died instantly. All eyes turned to the main viewport. They had been so focused on the giant planet and the new sun that they had not looked at what was right in front of them. Kim Min was the first to speak, his voice a whisper. "Captain, look." He adjusted the viewport's magnification and resolution. The image sharpened, pulling details out of the darkness. Floating in the high orbit of the gas giant, silhouetted against its maroon clouds, was a structure. It was immense, larger than any space station ever conceived by humans. It was a complex latticework of metal, a city of interconnected rings, towers, and vast, flat plains. It was clearly artificial, a masterpiece of engineering on an unimaginable scale. And it was dark. Not a single light shone from its countless windows or across its sprawling surface. Its metal was pitted and scarred, painted with the silent history of eons of micrometeoroid impacts. "It's a station," Jihu breathed, all the joy gone from his voice, replaced by awe. "Scan it," June ordered, his own voice low and careful. "Full active scan, but be ready to jump on my command." Dr. Suk and Chai-Won worked together. Beams of energy and radar pulses shot out from the Odyssey, washing over the silent structure. "Still no energy signatures," Chai-Won reported. "No power readings at all. It's dead. Completely dead." "I'm detecting similar structures," Kim Min said, his voice tense. He brought up a tactical map on a secondary screen. Dozens of red icons appeared, scattered around the gas giant. "There are more, smaller ones. And look at this." He highlighted several of the icons. "The composition is different, denser. They look like ships." The map zoomed in. The smaller objects were indeed ship-like, though their designs were strange and alien. Some were long and slender, others were blocky and brutal. All of them were shattered. Hulls were torn open, pieces were missing, and they drifted in a slow, silent dance of destruction. "This isn't a station," Dr. Suk said, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. "This is a graveyard, a battlefield." June stared at the colossal, dark station. It was not a welcoming sight. It was a tombstone. The silence from it was not peaceful. It was oppressive. It was the silence of something that had ended long, long ago. Could this be? The Proximans? Jihu asked. The life we thought might be on the planet? They built this. Dr. Suk shook his head, still studying his data. No. The biology of Proxima b, what we can scan from here, is simple. Microbial at best. This is the work of a starfaring race. Powerful one. This technology is far beyond ours. A new kind of tension filled the bridge. It was no longer the tension of a test flight. It was the tension of intruders stumbling upon a sacred, forgotten place. They had expected empty space or maybe a new world to study. They had not expected to find the ruins of someone else's dream. Captain, Chai-Won said, pointing to her screen. The largest structure, the central station. There is a docking port. A large one. It looks intact. June considered their options. The mission parameters were clear. Jump, scan, return. They had already completed the primary objective. They were in another star system, but now they were faced with the single greatest discovery in human history. To turn away now would be to ignore the very purpose of exploration. Kim Min, bring us to a safe distance from that docking port. 100 meters. Slow and careful. June ordered. You're not thinking of going over there? Jihu asked, his voice rising in pitch. We have a duty to see, June replied, his gaze fixed on the derelict. We came here to find out if we are alone. It seems we have our answer. But the question now is, what happened to them? The Odyssey's thrusters fired, a gentle puff of gas that nudged the ship forward. They moved slowly, gliding past the wreckage of ancient warships. A torn hull plate, bigger than their entire vessel, drifted by. They saw the scorch marks of energy weapons and the jagged tears of kinetic impacts. The scale of the destruction was staggering. It was not a single battle. It was a system-wide annihilation. Finally, they came to a stop before the main station. The docking port was a massive circular door, large enough to swallow the Odyssey whole. It was sealed shut, its surface covered in the same cosmic pitting as the rest of the station. The bridge crew of the Odyssey looked out at the silent, dead monument. The triumph of their jump was gone, replaced by a deep, chilling humility. They had arrived on the galactic stage, but the theater was empty, the lights were out, and the previous owners had left behind only ruins and questions. The galaxy had held its breath, and now humanity was listening to its silence. The airlock of the Odyssey hissed open, revealing the small, flexible tunnel that now connected them to the alien station. On the other side was a circular door, made of a dark, non-reflective metal. Captain Lee Jun, Dr. Kang Suk, and Park Chai-Won floated in their EVA suits, their helmet lights cutting bright cones through the absolute darkness. Ready? Jun's voice was calm in their helmet comms. Ready? Suk said, his voice filled with a scientist's eager tension. Let's just be quick, Chai-Won added, her tone all business. She held a large, rectangular device, a universal coupling interface designed to connect with any standard-looking data port. In her other hand was a powerful cutting torch, just in case. June gave a hand signal. Kim Min, watching from the Odyssey's bridge, activated the mechanism on their end. The tunnel pressurized, and with a deep, grinding groan that vibrated through their boots, the alien door began to move. It wasn't a slide or a lift. It irised open, its metal petals retracting into the wall with a sound of ancient machinery protesting after a long, long sleep. A wave of stale, cold air washed over them, carried no smell, just a profound emptiness. They floated through the opening into a vast, dark space. Their helmet lights were swallowed by the darkness, illuminating only small patches at a time. They were in a gigantic corridor wide enough to drive a train through. The walls were smooth and metallic, etched with faint, flowing patterns that looked like a mix of mathematics and art. Wires and conduits, long dead, snaked along the ceiling. And then they saw the first one. It was floating near the center of the corridor, held in place by the zero gravity. It was a skeleton. The bones were long and slender, the rib cage a delicate cage. The skull was elongated with large, hollow eye sockets. It was still clad in the tattered remains of a silvery suit, now brittle and torn. Doctor Suk pushed off gently, floating towards it. Fascinating, he whispered, his breath fogging his visor. The structure is bipedal, similar to us, but the bone density is lower, lighter. Perhaps they evolved in a lower gravity environment. More bodies came into view as their lights swept the area. Dozens of them. They were frozen in poses of quiet stillness. Some were curled up as if in sleep. Others were near control panels on the walls, their bony fingers still resting near dark screens. There's no sign of violence, June observed, his light tracing over a skeleton that showed no broken bones, no blast marks on the wall behind it. It doesn't look like they were attacked here. It looks like they just stopped, Chai once said, her voice soft. She was looking at a smaller skeleton, tucked against a larger one. A family, perhaps. The sight sent a cold shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. Let's find the command center, June said, steering them forward. The source of whatever power this place had. They moved deeper into the silent station, following the largest corridor. They passed rooms filled with strange, dormant machinery. They saw what might have been living quarters, with furniture bolted to the floors and walls, all designed for a weightless life. Everything was dark, frozen, and covered in a fine layer of cosmic dust that glittered in their lights. Finally, they entered a chamber larger than all the others. It was circular, with viewports that looked out onto the maroon swirl of the gas giant and the field of wrecked ships. Consoles ringed the room, all dark. In the center was a raised dais with a single, larger console. "This is it," Suk said, his excitement returning. "The bridge, or whatever they called it." Chai-Won swam over to the central console. She wiped dust from its surface, revealing a smooth panel with no visible buttons. No physical interface. It's probably touch-activated or thought-controlled. She held up her universal coupling device. But maybe this can find a way in. She found a small hexagonal port near the base of the console. It was caked with dust, but the shape was standard enough. She brushed it clean and plugged her device in. A light on her device blinked from red to amber. "It's trying to handshake," she said. "There's a tiny bit of residual power, just enough to maintain something. Memory, maybe? Can you access it?" June asked, floating beside her. "I don't know. Their data architecture will be completely alien. Could take years to decode." She tapped commands into her device. The light stayed amber. Doctor. Suk joined her, pulling a small tablet from his suit. "Let me try. I've been running linguistic analysis on the wall glyphs since we came in. The patterns are repetitive. I might have a basic root structure." He connected his tablet to Chai-Won's device. Lines of code and strange symbols scrolled across his screen. For several minutes, they worked in silence, the only sounds their breathing and the faint hum of their suit systems. June kept watch, his light playing over the silent, skeletal crew of this dead ship. He felt like a grave robber, disturbing a peace that had lasted for millennia. "Wait," Suk said suddenly. "I'm getting something. It's not a language translation. It's more fundamental. It's mathematical. A base code. The universe's constants are the same everywhere. I'm using that as a key." The light on Chai-Won's device flickered, then turned to steady. Bright green, a low hum filled the room. A soft, blue light emanated from the central console, spreading out to the ring of stations around them. The crew members jumped, their hands going to their tools. "It's just powering up the local systems," Chai-Won said, watching her device's readouts. "Minimal draw. It's reading our device as a friendly query." A hologram flickered to life above the central dais. It showed a complex star chart, filled with symbols they didn't understand. Then it changed. It showed a being like the skeletons around them, but alive. Its skin was a pale gray, its eyes large and dark. It wore elaborate, flowing robes. It looked wise and terribly, profoundly sad. The being began to speak, its voice a soft, melodic series of clicks and whistles. A line of text appeared below the hologram, first in the alien script, then, after a moment, in rough, broken Korean. Sook's translation program was working. We are the Thar. The translation began. The voice was calm, but the words were heavy with finality. If you are seeing this, then we are gone. And you are the ones who have come after. The hologram shifted, showing images of vibrant cities on green worlds, of Cthar ships sailing between stars, of art and music and laughter. We were a great people, the recording continued. We spanned star systems. We thought we were the masters of our destiny. We were wrong. The image changed again. It showed graphs of DNA helices. A red warning symbol, like a spreading stain, appeared over them. A sickness came, not a plague of viruses, but a plague of silence. A corruption in the very code of life. It did not kill us. It made us sterile. Generation by generation, our numbers dwindled. We could not stop it. No one could. The hologram showed Cthar looking at empty cradles. It showed entire city districts going dark. It showed ships, like this one, being launched as arcs, as last hopes. This station and others like it was our final project. The last song network. We gathered all our knowledge, all our history, all our science. We built these beacons and sent them out not as a cry for help, for it was too late for us, but as a gift, a warning. The Cthar in the hologram looked directly at them, its large eyes seeming to hold the weight of 1,000 extinct stars. The galaxy is quiet now. The great silence took the Zer, the Vel, the Tan, and now it has taken us. You are not the first life to reach for the stars. You are simply the last one left. The being raised a three-fingered hand in a gesture that looked like a blessing or a farewell. We do not know who you are. We only hope that you are wiser, that you can learn from our end. Our knowledge is yours now. Use it to build. Use it to survive. Do not let the song end with you. The hologram flickered and died. The blue lights on the consoles faded away, and the room was once again lit only by their helmet lamps. The three humans floated in the silence, the words of the dead echoing in their minds. They had not found life. They had found its obituary. Captain June finally broke the silence, his voice quiet and firm. Chai-1, did we get it? Did we get the data? Chai-1 was staring at her device. The light was still green. A progress bar was filling up rapidly. Yes, Captain, she whispered. It's downloading. Everything. The entire Cthar archive. It's giving us the key to the galaxy. A galaxy of ghosts. The journey back through the dark corridors of the Cthar station was a silent one. The floating skeletons were no longer just alien remains. They were the people from the recording. The ones who had built this tomb and left a message in a bottle for a future that might never come. Captain June, Dr. Sook, and Park Chai-1 moved with a new reverence, a heavy understanding settling upon them. Back in the airlock of the Odyssey, the process of decontamination and repressurization felt unnaturally loud. When the inner door hissed open and they removed their helmets, the familiar air of their ship tasted different. It tasted like the air of the last lifeboat in a vast, empty ocean. Kim Min and Li Ji-Hu were waiting for them on the bridge, their faces etched with anxious curiosity. What did you find? Was there anyone alive? Ji-Hu asked, his words tumbling out. Doctor. Sook shook his head, his expression grim. No. There hasn't been anyone alive here for a very, very long time. He moved to his science station, his movements slow, as if he carried a great weight. June went straight to his command chair. Chai-1, the data. Secure it and begin a preliminary analysis. I need to know what we're carrying. Park Chai-1, usually so focused on her engineering tasks, seemed distracted. She was staring at the data storage unit in her hand, the one that now contained the entire legacy of a dead civilization. It's immense, Captain. The download completed just before we disconnected. The file size it's astronomical. It would take our best supercomputers on Earth years to fully process it. Just give me the broad strokes, June said, his voice firm. What is it? Chai-1 plugged the device into her console. Screens lit up with cascading windows of alien symbols, complex diagrams, and star charts. It's not one thing. It's Everything. She scrolled through the index, her eyes wide. Theoretical physics, advanced biology, engineering schematics for structures and machines I can't even begin to understand. Medical science that seems to rewrite genetics. She looked up, her face pale. This is technology that could take humanity 1,000 years to develop on its own. Maybe more. Dr. Suk spoke up from his station. His voice filled with a quiet awe. It's more than technology. It's a history, a census. They mapped the galaxy. They cataloged the species. The Zer who built cities in gas giants. The Vel who communicated through light. All gone. Wiped out by what they called the Great Silence. A universal genetic sterility. It wasn't a war. It was a slow, quiet extinction. The bridge fell silent. The scale of the tragedy was too large to grasp. They had come looking for new life and had instead found a galaxy-sized graveyard. Kim Min finally broke the silence, his pilot's pragmatism cutting through the gloom. So, what do? We have the ultimate treasure map. Do we go to the next location on their star chart? See what else is out there? Li Ji-hoo shook his head vigorously. No. Are you crazy? We have to go back. We have to tell everyone. This changes everything. Everything. All eyes turned to Captain Lee Jun. He was staring at the main viewport, at the dark, silent bulk of the Kthar station. The weight of command had never felt heavier. The mission parameters were clear: jump and return. But the mission was over. This was something new. He thought of the hopeful faces at mission control. He thought of the people of Earth, waiting for news of a bright, new future. How would they react to the news that the future was a silent, empty house, and they were the new tenants? He thought of the Kthara's final words. Use it to build. Use it to survive. If they stayed, they risked everything. A system failure, an encounter with some unknown remnant of the past, the same mysterious silence that killed the others. They were explorers, not archaeologists. If they returned, they would be delivering a burden as much as a gift. This knowledge would shatter human society. It would create fear, panic, and a mad scramble for power. But it would also give them a chance. A warning from the past to protect their future. Jun looked at his crew. He saw the fear in Ji-hoo's eyes, the curiosity in Min's, the solemn understanding in Suk's, and the overwhelmed shock in Chai-won's. He made his choice. Kim Min, Jun said, his voice cutting through the tension. Plot a course for Earth. Use the star data from the Kthar archive to make the return jump as precise as possible. A collective breath seemed to be released on the bridge. The decision was made. Ji-hoo, prepare a compressed data burst. Just the basic facts. Our safe arrival, the discovery of alien ruins, and our imminent return. No details about the Great Silence. That news needs to be delivered in person. Yes, Captain, Ji-hoo said, his relief evident. Chai-won, I want you and Dr. Suk to work together. Create multiple redundant copies of the Kthar archive. Secure it in every memory bank we have. This is not just our discovery. It is a trust. It belongs to all of humanity now. Chai-won nodded, her professional demeanor returning. Understood, Captain. I'll partition the core system. We'll have a backup in the lifeboat's computer as well. For the next hour, the bridge was a flurry of activity. Min worked with the new, impossibly accurate star charts, his eyes wide at the clarity. It's like I've been looking at a blurry map my whole life and someone just gave me a perfect one. He muttered. Chai-won and Suk worked in tandem, the engineer handling the data storage and the scientist categorizing the torrent of information. The medical data alone, Suk whispered, scrolling through files. They understood cellular life on a level we can't imagine. This could cure cancer, reverse aging. Jun sat in his chair watching them. He knew the easy part was over. The jump home was simple. The hard part would be landing. The hard part would be explaining to all of humanity that they were alone, that they were orphans, and that they had just inherited a universe filled with the toys of the dead children who came before them. The Odyssey's thrusters fired, pushing them away from the Kthar station. They turned slowly, pointing their nose away from the maroon gas giant and the field of shattered ships, away from the silent testament of failure. They were going home. But home would never be the same. They were not returning as triumphant explorers. They were returning as messengers from a funeral. They were carrying a lighthouse from a shore that no longer had anyone left to warn, and now they had to decide if they would let its light guide them, or if they would sail into the same dark silence. The trip home was not like the trip out. The wonder was gone, replaced by a heavy, thoughtful silence. The Odyssey was no longer just a ship. It was a reliquary, a floating library carrying the last will and testament of a galaxy. Captain June spent most of his time on the bridge, staring at the star chart provided by the Cthar. It was no longer a map of the unknown. It was a census of the dead. Each system was tagged with a name, Cthar, Zer, Vel, and a single universal symbol that Dr. Suk had confirmed meant extinct. The Milky Way was not a vibrant community. It was a graveyard with neatly labeled headstones. Park Chai-won was buried in the engineering data. She had set up a secure partition in the ship's main computer, a digital vault for the Cthar archive. She spent hours running basic analysis programs, her face a mask of concentration and disbelief. "Captain," she said one day, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the ship. "Look at this." June floated over to her station. On her screen was a complex schematic. "What is it?" "It's a power source," she said, her finger tracing lines of energy flow. "But it's not a reactor. It's a tap." They found a way to draw zero-point energy from the fabric of space itself. The theoretical power output is infinite for all practical purposes. She looked at him, her eyes serious. This one schematic could solve Earth's energy crisis forever. No more fossil fuels. No more reactors. Just clean, limitless power. June nodded slowly. It was a gift beyond price. And it was just one page in an endless book. Dr. Kong Suk was in his element, yet he moved with a new solemnity. He was cross-referencing the Cthar biological data with human genetic maps. "It's all here, Captain," he explained, showing June a comparison on his screen. The Great Silence wasn't a poison. It was a creeping mutation, a tiny error in the reproductive code that compounded with each generation until it became a dead end. He zoomed in on a section of human DNA. "We have the same vulnerability. A different trigger, perhaps, but the potential is there. Their medical science doesn't just offer cures for our diseases. It offers a way to perfect our genetic code, to make us immune to such a fate." The implications were staggering. Humanity could be made stronger, healthier, and safe from the very plague that had wiped out their predecessors. But it also meant playing God with the essence of what it meant to be human. Kim Min, the pilot, was the quietest of them all. He was running flight simulations using the Cthar astrometric data. The difference was night and day. "Their navigation isn't about plotting a course between points," he told June during a shared meal. "It's about understanding the gravity currents of the galaxy. It's like they were sailing on a river while we were trying to paddle across an ocean. With this, a jump to the Andromeda galaxy wouldn't just be possible, it would be straightforward." He looked out the viewport at the streaking stars of the FTL tunnel. "They gave us the keys to the entire universe, Captain. And they did it because they had no one else to give them to." Lee Ji-hoo was struggling the most. The comm specialist was used to being the link to home, to a vibrant, living humanity. Now he felt isolated. The data burst they had sent was a simple, "mission successful, returning home." Felt like a lie. He would spend hours listening to the archived music and news broadcasts from Earth, the noisy, chaotic, and beautiful sound of a species that was still alive. He was guarding the greatest discovery in history, and all he wanted was to hear his mother's voice. The medical officer, Kim Soo-min, monitored them all. She saw the stress in their biometrics, the psychological weight of their burden. She organized shared meals, encouraged rest, and made sure they talked. She was the anchor, reminding them that they were still human, still alive. One evening, the entire crew was gathered in the common area, eating rehydrated stew. The silence was comfortable but deep. "What do we do when we get back?" Min asked, voicing the question on all their minds. "Do we just hand this over to the governments?" The corporations. There will be a fight, Jihu said grimly. Everyone will want a piece of it. It could start wars. It must not be weaponized, Chai-Wan said firmly. The Kthar technology was for building for life. We saw what was left of their warships. We cannot make the same mistakes. Dr. Suk nodded. This is a chance for a unified human government. A chance to leap forward as one species. The alternative is chaos. June listened to them all. He heard their fears and their hopes. They were no longer just a crew following orders. They were the first guardians of a new era. They had been transformed by the silence they had witnessed. The Kthar didn't give this to a government or a corporation, June said quietly. They gave it to us, to the ones who came after. We have a responsibility to deliver it, but also to guide its use. We are the only ones who have seen the consequence of failure. We have to make sure everyone else understands. The final day of the journey arrived. The familiar tone of the FTL drive began to shift. The crew took their positions on the bridge. The mood was tense, but it was a different tension from before. It was not the fear of the unknown, but the heavy weight of a known, terrible truth. Reversion in 1 minute, Kim Min announced, his hands steady on the controls. June looked at his crew. He saw the resolve in their faces. They were scared, but they were ready. Remember what we saw, June said to them all. Remember the silence. We are not just bringing back technology. We are bringing back a warning and a purpose. The FTL drive disengaged. The tunnel of light collapsed. The starfield outside snapped back into a familiar configuration. There was the moon, a comforting gray, and there, a brilliant, beautiful blue and white marble. Earth. They were home. But as they looked at their world, hanging alone in the vast, dark silence, it seemed both infinitely precious and terribly small. They had left as explorers. They returned as heirs. And the future of humanity now rested on what they did next. The return of the Odyssey was a global event unlike any other. News channels showed the ship, a tiny, brilliant speck against the blackness, as it was gently guided by tugs into a high orbit. The world held its breath, waiting for the story of the century. Captain Lee Jun stood in the airlock, his dress uniform feeling stiff and unfamiliar. He took a deep breath. The air from the station dock smelled of recycled oxygen and metal, a scent he knew well. But it was different now. It was the smell of home, a home that was about to change forever. That he walked out first, followed by his crew. The flash of cameras was a blinding storm. A roar of cheers and shouted questions filled the large reception bay. World leaders, scientists, and generals were lined up, their faces a mix of celebration and hungry curiosity. The official ceremony was a blur of handshakes and medals. Speeches were made, praising the courage of the crew and the dawn of a new age for humanity. June stood stiffly, nodding, his mind a million miles away, in a silent station orbiting a dead world. Finally, it was his turn to speak. He walked to the podium, the eyes of the planet upon him. The cheering slowly died down. They expected a triumphant speech. They expected tales of alien wonders. That he placed a small data chip on the podium. My name is Captain Lee Jun of the Starship Odyssey, he began, his voice calm and clear, carrying through the silent hall. We went to the stars to see if we were alone. We are not. A wave of excited murmurs swept the room. He waited for it to settle. We are not alone in the sense that we are not the first. But we are alone now. He looked out at the faces, at the hopeful smiles that were beginning to fade. We found no empires. We found no new friends. We found a grave. He pressed a button. A hologram flickered to life above him. It was the image of the Kthar from the station recording, its wise, sad eyes looking out over the audience. A collective gasp filled the room. This is a member of a species called the Kthar. They were one of many. They built a civilization that spanned the stars. They are gone. He let the image hang in the air for a long moment. They were not destroyed in a war. They were lost to a sickness, a genetic decay they called the Great Silence. It took them, and it took every other intelligent species we have found evidence of. The galaxy is not a crowded place. It is a library of the dead. The silence in the room was now absolute. You could hear a pin drop. He saw shock, disbelief, and fear on the faces before him. But they did not leave us nothing. June continued. In their final days, they built beacons. They gathered all their knowledge, all their science, all their art and history. They left it for the next ones to find. They left it for us. He gestured to the data chip. This contains a small part of what they gave us. Schematics for a power source that will give us limitless, clean energy. Medical data that can cure every disease we have and perfect our own genetic code. The secrets of the universe, handed to us as an inheritance. He paused, letting the magnitude of that sink in. He saw the greed in some eyes, the wonder in others. They did not give us this so we could fight over it. They gave it to us so we could survive. They gave us a warning from the past to protect our future. We are the next chapter. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for someone to come and listen to its stories. We are the listeners now, and we must decide if their story ends with them, or if we will be wise enough to write a new one. He stepped away from the podium. There was no applause, only a stunned, heavy silence. He had not given them a victory. He had given them a purpose and a grave responsibility. Weeks later, the crew of the Odyssey was together again, in a quiet room overlooking the shipyard where a new vessel was being built. It was twice the size of the Odyssey, its design incorporating the graceful, efficient lines of Kthar engineering. It's called the Legacy, Kim Min said, a faint smile on his face. I'm going to be her pilot. Park Chai-won nodded. The first of many. The energy systems alone. We can build cities on Mars now. Real cities with open air and green parks. Dr. Kong Suk looked out the window. The Global Council has been formed. It's messy. There are fights. But for the first time, every nation is talking. The threat of the Great Silence. It is a powerful motivator to work together. Lee Ji-hoo joined them. The first public data releases are tomorrow. The energy schematics and the basic medical cures. No weapons. No tools for control. Just life. It was not a perfect piece. There was still fear and conflict. But the direction had changed. Humanity was no longer looking out at the stars with a childish wonder, dreaming of friends or enemies. They were looking out as adults, as stewards, as the bearers of a silent, immense trust. Captain June stood with his crew, his friends. They had been to the edge of oblivion and had come back with a gift and a warning. The galaxy was quiet, but it was no longer empty. It was filled with the memory of those who had come before and the determined, fragile hope of those who came after. The work was just beginning. The legacy was waiting. And out there, in the deep and silent dark, other beacons were waiting too, ready to share their stories with the species that had finally learned to listen.